A lack of competition usually results in banality, a lack of originality, and mediocrity. And the product or person becomes mired in uninspired performance and talk drivel. And that's exactly what's going on with ESPN. But for so long, it's been just a dominant sports program on television. It's become too much of an emphasis on entertainment and not delivering sports news, which I have to be honest with you, I think that many of us in YouTube do a better job of presenting sports. A nice balance of sports entertainment, but sports information as well. And I think that ESPN is too much on entertainment and less on informing people on sports, and in particular historical context. And while I'm alluding to that, I want to give a shout out to Ticket TV and 93 Sports News for being the first channels to talk about this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a link in the description in my video to 93 Sports News video on this topic, and I strongly suggest that all of you listening subscribe to his channel. With Chris Broussard leaving, it's no real surprise. He seemed very enthused about going to Fox Sports 1. So much of ESPN's talent has gone over there, and I remember Bazooka Ike told me one time that he thought that ESPN was doing a good thing by its own end, business-wise, by saving money and letting some of the big names go and just replacing them with mediocre, I'll say mediocre, but lesser-known reporters and analysts, and on the business end. That's true, but ultimately I think that hurts ESPN. And then another thing too, while Fox Sports 1 may never achieve the ratings that ESPN gets, that doesn't necessarily mean that ESPN is more profitable. There's a difference. They might create more revenue overall, but ESPN is a much bigger conglomerate than Fox Sports 1. Like, it doesn't matter if, let's just say, I don't know the numbers. I really don't. I know I'm probably way off here, but let's just say ESPN generates $1.5 billion in revenue every year. I don't know the numbers. I might be off by a considerable amount. Let's say Fox Sports 1 generates maybe $500 million in revenue. But because Fox Sports 1 is a much smaller entity, Fox Sports 1 is actually more profitable. But ESPN is just breaking even or losing money. So I'm saying, like, it doesn't really matter. And I think ultimately, if they lose enough of their talent, people are going to eventually go over to Fox Sports 1, break the habit of always watching ESPN. I mean, because, like you see right now, ESPN just doesn't have any originality, man. And ultimately, that will hurt you. And I think people just seeing what's going over at Fox Sports 1, especially, I know with a lot of African-American talent, they see Shannon Sharp saying these things, and they're like, whoa, he can speak his mind over there? Oh, shit, I'm gone. I'm tired of tap dancing and cooning. Because a lot of these guys, man, let's be fair, man. We might call these people a coon and call this guy a coon and this guy a coon. But we got to sometimes be a little fair and look at it like it's more like these guys are being forced to coon. Because I know some of these guys really don't enjoy saying some of the things they got to say out their mouths. But sometimes, like, I have to check myself sometimes. Because sometimes I could be a little bit hard on these guys, man. I hate cooning, but sometimes I know these guys have to do what they got to do to get paid. But as long as it's how can I say this? Like, I will never, for any amount of money, say something I know blatantly goes against my race and my principles. But I know sometimes these guys may be forced to feel like they have to take a position on something because they don't want to lose their paycheck. I understand to an extent, and I empathize to an extent with that. But what Stephen A. Smith does is a disgrace. So I know a guy like Chris Broussard who has principles. He has morals. I've read about him. He's not a piece of shit like Stephen A. Smith is. He sees what's going on Fox Sports 1. He sees the freedom to speak your mind like never before we've seen on talk television, sports programs concerned outside of radio, and satellite radio, really. And he's like, I'm gone. And I don't blame him. So, guys, tell me what you think about Chris Broussard going to Fox Sports 1. I think him, you see Rob Parker over there. You know, you guys know where I'm going with this. You can actually hear people talk about subjects and be real about it. You know, instead of cooning and shucking and trying to see which way the winds are blowing and, I'm a coon today, but I don't think I'm going to be killed too much if I'm being quote-unquote real tomorrow, but the next day I'm a coon again because I got too much. Nah. Keep it real over here at Fox Sports 1. And fuck ESPN. Peace out.